Well, the day has come to announce a brand new project for STS Garage. Lance, my HJ47, is actually what started this channel and kicked off a lot of things in my life. Actually, that car really was important to me. I said in the very first episode that we did on the first build on that car that sometimes projects pick you, and that one certainly did. So it was really one of those, holy the hell, that car just picked me. That it's just me all over. And I'm gonna rebuild him for the second time. Super excited to announce this new project for STS Garage. My 1981 model HJ47 really holds a special place in my heart, and I can't wait to rebuild him. Now, I had big plans of having the car sitting here behind me while we talked about it and reintroduced him again, but ironically, today it actually will not start. Just of all days, we have abused that car. We have really not looked after it mechanically. We've just driven the wheels off it, only just getting back from Clex 2025 all the way up to Caboolture and back, which is about 6 or 7 hours for us. The thing sits on 110, roars its head off, 4-speed manual, heaps to blow by, and it's just, that's the charm of the car. The fact that it just won't give up and the character in it. So the first iteration of Lance in that first build series we did, I was really green as far as anything to do with, building a car. I'm very mechanically minded. I'm not a mechanic, however, and I do have a huge interest in it. I've always wanted to do it, and to really get in deep in a car like that and strip it right back, that really helped me cut my teeth. And you really start to understand about not being scared to just get in and do things. Once you do them, you realise that anything is achievable. Now, that build was a real patina build, super original. We did a disc brake front end out of a 60 series in it, all new suspension, all new brake lines. Everything was absolutely knackered from sitting on a farm and being abused for years and years. The engine's super original with, like I said before, plenty of blow-by. All we've really done to it is change oil and put about 4 sets of glow plugs in it so far, and I think we're about to put another set in it because it's got a few weeks worth of work left to do for me yet. The clutch is still original, how I got it off the farm. The gearbox we haven't touched. We've done a lot of driveline work though and brakes, and ironically in this new build that we're going to do on Lance, everything that I fixed in the first build, which was mainly underneath, is all going to get turfed in the bin. So Lance V2 is going to consist of a new chassis in the form of an 80 series Landcruiser. Now, if you're into old Land Cruisers, and especially 40s, a 4080 I think is like that dream car. Like having something that's coil all around, a much stronger chassis, arguably probably the best Land Cruiser ever made, the 80 series, mainly because of that solid front end and coils. Underneath, something that looks as cool as a 40 series. For me, that's the pinnacle. I don't know where we'll go from here as far as a project goes. Probably the controversial part is going to be my engine choice. I really looked at, down the LS path. The Barra thing, I'm a Ford guy, have been for years as far as Falcons and that when I was a younger fella. The Barra thing hasn't really excited me so much. If I was going to really chase heaps of power, I think the LS, the V8 sound. At the end of the day, I'm a tight ass. And not only that, I think it needs to stay relevant, and anyone can throw not anyone, but you can throw $200,000 at a car, and look, I love those builds as well, and maybe we'll do that one day. But for Lance, I think it needs to stay within a reasonable budget and has to stay super DIY for me. And a motor that I'm super common with is the 4JJ1 out of a 2008 to 2012 Colorado or Dmax, which is what we put in the 60 series. And look, it's just really cheap, super reliable, makes plenty of power, good package size, little engine to put in a truck like Lance. It is essentially a truck motor, the 4JJ1, being in Isuzu's light truck range. So we've gone down that path again, and I know the purists out there will be hating me, and there's plenty of people that have said, not Paul Lance, don't do it to Paul Lance. I've been speaking to a few people about it. But the way I'm going to do this build is, or the goal, is for the car to actually look identical. I'm not doing any body work to it. There are going to be little areas of rust I'm going to have to touch up, but there'll be no paint, no body filler. The tray's staying the same. I dead set love the look of that car, and it's exactly why I bought it from the farm in the first place. So the plan is to have something that will end up with pretty good power. These things do make a bit of power, and we're going to chase a bit of power in this build. We didn't really do that with the 60 series, but we're going to push the 4J pretty hard with this one. 5-speed manual this time. Last time we had an automatic in the 60. Air conditioning, power steering, and something pretty special hopefully with the suspension we've been toying with the idea of, and you'll see coming in a new episode of the GQ build. A little bit of suspense there, but we are really letting you guys know exactly what's going on today. So really excited to do this build. I'm hoping it'll be quite a quick build. Like, I'm hoping to get this thing running again within 6 months. That's fully engineered, back on the road, because I use this car heaps. And a big reason for doing this in the first place is because I do use it so much. And over summer, without air conditioning and no power steering, there are some days where it is just a pain to drive. Like, it's noisy, it's hot. And look, I'm getting older, right? I'm a bit softer these days. Another really big reason is I have 2 younger daughters, and one of them's getting to that age where she, it won't be too long she'll be learning to drive. And what a better car in a 5-speed manual with power steer and aircon. I think that is the perfect car to learn to drive, and one day she'll thank me. But at the moment she thinks Dad's not very cool in that car, but it's coming around. So there's so many reasons for me to do this. This is my forever car, but I'm not going to go silly. I want the thing to be practical. And that part of being practical is the 4JJ1 is a 4-cylinder motor. It fits in the engine bay, or it should do, being that the 40 series engine bay is quite small. So I'll be able to work on it as well. You cram a big motor in there, and if anything goes wrong, you're buggered to try and fix it. Like, you just can't get near any of it. So we'll go and have a look at the donor vehicles, how I purchased them, what to look out for if you do want to do something like this. I think we will try and do this in quite a lot of detail. I don't think it's an overly hard conversion to do. I say that now, we haven't even started, but this will be definitely an angle grinder and a welder sort of project. If you got those 2 things, you can just about do anything, I believe anyway. Like I said, I'm not a mechanic, I'm just a butcher really. So let's go out and have a look at the first one, being the 80 series out the back, and see what state that's in. Super keen to get into Lance V2, but I've got to interrupt there before we have a look at those donor vehicles. To celebrate this new project, we have the original STS Garage Lance Measure Once, Cut Twice T. Now, they're cheaper than they've ever been, and they're also all screen printed now, working really hard with our printers to get a good price in an AS colour quality T. This is still my favourite. So if your Measure Once, Cut Twice T is all worn out, or you don't have one, make sure you head over to smarttouringsystems.com.au. Thanks for the support, guys. Now let's go and check out these donor vehicles. Righto, so here it is. This is the first time I've ever owned an 80 series Landcruiser in my life, so we can tick that one off the list. Look, it's a very sad one at that. But importantly, the chassis on this thing looks really good, really rust-free. It's got a clear title, and it is the right year model. So if you're looking for a chassis out of an 80 series to do a 4080, or even use the chassis in a 60 series, they do that as well. There is the right model to get. Now, you need to at least be pre-96, 97. Before they had ABS, side intrusion bars, and some extra ADRs that made it harder to get it compliant when you put the 40 series cab on it. Obviously a 40 series door certainly doesn't have side intrusion bars. And with the complexity of having ABS, then you need wheel sensors, speed sensors, and all those things to try and incorporate that into a 40-plus-year-old 40 series cab is well above and beyond what I want to do or am potentially capable of. So you got to pick your battles. Now, anything pre-96, 97 is okay to use, but then anything between 93 to 96 is about where you want to be. So from 93 onwards, they come with rear disc brakes, better brakes in the front, and then you can actually upgrade the front brakes to 97 and onwards, and potentially get an engineer to sign off on 3.5 ton tow, which I have done the research on. So speaking of engineering, there are quite a few things that you need to look out for. I haven't double checked, but I'm 99% sure, being a 1FZ motor and 93 and on, this more than likely has a catalytic converter in it. So that means I will have to have a catalytic converter on the 4J that I put in, which they did come with back in that day. Certainly don't need a DPF, which the Dmax didn't come with, neither did the 80 series. So you really just need to comply with the year model of the chassis. So once the conversion's been done, Lance will essentially be called an 80 series on the rego papers. It stays with the chassis, not the body, not the engine. So you've got to make sure you get a really good base to start with as far as the chassis is concerned. And that's what I've got here with big old red. Now, these vary in price massively. I'm not going to tell you guys the price of everything as I go. I'm going to record it down to the last dollar, and at the very end of this series, I will go through with the costings, as I did with every other build, because I feel like that is such a big consideration when you're doing a project like this. It has to be within reach of skill level and also your back pocket. So keeping that in mind, I plan to use the complete chassis, the factory fuel tanks with the factory crossover switch, because being a GXL model, it comes with twin tanks and the switch and the extra gauge to split those tanks. We potentially are going to use a rear 79 series Landcruiser tank, so that should give me 90 litres and 130, as long as that works with the gearbox configuration. If not, we can just run the rear 130, which is probably enough diesel, but like I said, this car that I'm building is going to be a long-term car for me, and if I've got 200 litres of diesel with a little 4J motor in it, it would give us fantastic range, and we can use the factory crossover switch out of the 80 series. That would be awesome. But essentially, we're only buying it for those few parts. So the rest of the cab here and the engine, if the engine was good, and the automatic gearbox, these are parts you can sell off. Now, this has a seized 1FZ in it. Saying that, someone might want that for rebuild or for parts. The gearbox has already been sold out of this car. All the panels have been very popular, because you go to wreckers for parts like this, and because of their overheads, it is quite an expensive job to pull apart a car and sell those parts off. So if all you're wanting to do is try to recoup the money that you bought the chassis for, it's actually not that hard to do. We're going to go bloody well close here, I think. And that also gets it out of your backyard. And another really cool part of all this, I reckon, is we're creating something that was probably going to go to the crusher and giving it another life, which is greener than most electric cars on the road, I believe. We've got these 40-year-old cars. We're going to keep running. These panels will go into someone else's car, and you drive on. So that's the big red 80. So just keep those few things in mind. The year model is super important. Make sure it's got a good chassis underneath it, obviously, is really important. And a few parts that you might be able to sell off it to recoup the cost of buying the vehicle and get the bloody thing out of your backyard in a reasonable time frame, which is really important for me. Right, so that's the 80 series, and there's a few things to look out for there. We'll now head back into the shed, and I'll bring the Dmax in and we'll check that out. Righto, here she is in all her glory. Turned up late last night on the back of a car carrier, and I am learning a few things here. With the previous build, we went and picked up the car from the auction house. By the time you put diesel in your ute, hire a trailer, and take your time into account to go and pick it up, we got this delivered to our door for $600, which was a great price, and a legend bloke. Thanks very much, matey. Anyway, why this car? Why the 4JJ1? Why this model? There's quite a few good reasons for all those things. As you know, I love the 4JJ1, having it in the 60 series, and I just couldn't not do it again. I feel like that's our thing now. So we're going to go and put the same bloody motor in the 40 series, albeit we're going to chase a fair bit more power out of this one. And this one is a 5-speed manual, where the 60 series is an automatic. I like the idea of keeping things simple with the 5-speed manual in the 40 series. It just fits the car better. So there's quite a few things to look out for when buying a donor vehicle for the engine. So I obviously couldn't go and inspect this vehicle. This was a Pickles auction, so the car has been written off. It's a statutory write-off. You scour the photos as much as possible to get an indication of whether the car's been looked after. One of the things I noticed under the bonnet was a catch can. It had a few little accessories on it, had some nice clear view mirrors. The interior shots looked like it had been looked after. The seats weren't torn. Just try and get a good feel as to whether someone would have serviced this vehicle on time. And all those things can give you an indication of whether the car was just thrashed and abused or genuinely loved and looked after. It sounds really healthy. It looks like it has been looked after. And I think we got lucky again, because the last thing you want to do is get the car home and find out that it's absolutely destroyed. And it's quite a bit of an investment, even buying a stat write-off, because you are bidding against all the big wreckers in the country as well. They're quite a popular model, and quite a popular model to then wreck the rest of the vehicle once we pull the engine and gearbox out. Last time we did this, I basically recouped the whole cost of the car. They're just super popular, and because they have such a long service life, body panels, rear diffs, transfer cases, there's so many parts on it that people are willing to fix quite an older car, because they keep going forever. Great little motor. Okay, so why this exact shape or model? So this is a 2008 to 2012 Dmax. All Colorados are the same engine. They do run a different computer though, and speaking with Aussie 4J conversions, which we will use for all the conversion parts, the Isuzu computer is the better one to get. The Dmax is the better car to buy too, as far as parting out. The bits are just worth a little bit more money than the Colorados. So 2008 to 2012 is your 4J J1. The later Dmaxes now have what they call a 4J J3, which are arguably a stronger motor. You can make more power out of them, but they have a much more complex computer system in them, which then really just adds to cost. There's mobs out there now making standalone computers for 4J J3s. There is people out there working on getting the factory computer to work, because you've got to think about all the wheel speed sensors and all the little other modules around inside the car that need to talk to the computer. It just adds so much more complexity, and for us, not chasing outright power, just a bit more. We're talking 250 horsepower, I've been told is quite easily and reliable out of a 4J J1. I found that the extra cost just wasn't going to be worth it to try and kind of pave the way with 4J J3s. There's a few people starting to do it, but it hasn't been done a lot. So we're stuck to that model. The other real benefit is the sump on a 4J J1 has the right offset for the diff pumpkin in Toyotas, because your diff pumpkin's offset in a Toyota. The sump is offset the right way in a 4J J1. In a 4J J3, you have to actually remove the sump, and part of the engine cover itself, it's got a funny sump set up on it, and replace it with something out of a 4J J1. So it adds cost and complexity again. And then one of the other reasons I like the 4J J1, and it's going to be a reason why everyone hates them, is the top mount intercooler. So we left the top mount intercooler in the 60 series, and like I mentioned before about being able to work in the engine bay, it made the engine package so nice. All your plumbing's there, it's up on top of the motor. You put a front mount intercooler in a car that was never designed for it, and the plumbing is a dead set nightmare. There's pipes going everywhere, it just fills the engine bay. And like I said before, the 40 series already has quite a small engine bay. So if I can, I will keep the top mount intercooler. I don't know if it'll fit under the bonnet in the 40 series. So that is also another reason to say the 4J J1 engine. So this thing has 240,000 Ks on it. Look, there's plenty getting around with plus 400,000, and then pretty much everything that wears out, like heater hoses, turbos, injectors, all your belts, any little gaskets or seals. When we pull this motor out, we are going to be replacing all that anyway. Turbo and injectors will get upgraded, obviously. Potentially the top mount intercooler will get upgraded. And then anything with over 100, 150,000 Ks, you're going to be wanting to be doing belts, idlers, heater hoses, and anything like that anyway. So that 245,000 Ks didn't really scare me, as long as you could ascertain whether it had been looked after, and that was just looking at the general condition of the car. So Yes, a lower K one would be better, but you could be potentially buying something with 100,000 Ks on it that's absolutely been thrashed. It is just a gamble. I flipped a coin here and we got lucky again. So that is the Dmax we're going to be using in the conversion. Righto, that's our two donor vehicles. Now, how do we get all this to mesh together? There's a few really important parts that we need to chase, and there's some really cool companies out there doing some cool things that do make this work. So one of those being Aussie 4J Conversions. We're going to be using him for all the conversion parts again, wiring harness, the adapter to go from the 5-speed manual to the 80 series transfer case, and then any other little bits and pieces, probably engine mounts as well. We made our own for the last one, but I'm pretty sure Aussie 4J makes engine mounts for an 80 series chassis. So those little parts just make it really achievable for someone like myself. You don't have to build everything yourself. There are parts you can buy off the shelf to make all these components work together. The other real big key components are from McKinnon's Cruisers. Now, these guys cut their teeth on 4080s. Some of the cars they have at collects each year are just absolutely amazing. And he sells all these parts that he develops over the years online. You can go online and dead set buy body mounts for an 80 series chassis, 40 series cab, the tray mounts, the radiator support, a modified steering shaft even, that, you know, help people like me be able to achieve this. Now, by the end of this project, we'll have all those three cars combined, and I'll essentially have a 40 series that is as capable as an 80 series, but with the power and economy of a Dmax. I think that is just a really good combination, and I can't wait for this project to be done. I can't wait to get into it. Anyway, that's it, guys. Lance V2 has kicked off. Next episode, we are going straight into it. We'll be stripping that 80 series down, getting the motor out of the Dmax, and trying to get rid of some of these cars out of my backyard. Because, yeah, I just can't get Lance going at the moment, which, after all this time, right as I drove the Dmax down the driveway, it's shit itself, which, I don't know, there's kind of something ironic about that. Anyway, that's enough from me. Don't forget, you only live once. Get out in the shed, get into that project. I'll see you next time.